First off, it's an exciting week for us this week. A lot of things that you are going to experience this week. That whether as a coach or as a player, these are things you anticipate when you go play college football. You know, big football game on national TV. I think we embrace those situations. We've played in big games before, so that's not new to us. And this has been a progression for us, I think. You know, if you look at our football program right now from when we've come in 2007, it was about trying to get to these moments where you have an opportunity to play across the nation, and it has a sort of prominence to it, or prestige to it at this point. So we'll look forward to that opportunity. You look at Oregon right now, outstanding football team, outstanding program, and great skilled players. Look at them defensively a little bit, you know, big, strong guys, and I think their secondary is very skilled. Linebackers are athletic, big front, 3-4 defense. Going with schematics and concepts, but I won't do that at this point in time. And then you look at their offense. Mariota is an outstanding quarterback. What impresses me most about him is you can tell he has leadership. You can look at him and say that, on the film, and say the guy's tough. You can see he's emotional. You can see that people follow him. He's creative, can take a bad play, make it a good one, whether it's with his arm, with his feet. He's surrounded with good skill, good offensive line, breakaway running backs, and big play potential all over the place. So special teams, same type of thing. Good returners. They do some different things that are going to create problems for you, and it's going to be an exciting opportunity to play. So I think usually the best way to do this is just take some questions. Mark, to your right.
Is this a game of innovators? I mean, do you get excited as a coach knowing what they've done with their offense and what you guys have done defensively, and how many teams have copied both of you?
Yeah, I think there is something to that. When you look at Oregon, certainly you see what they've done offensively. And they are different from other spread teams. But I think that they've had so much success, a lot of people are taking some of the things and imitating them, or not copying, but using their concepts and trying to adapt it into their offenses. And then when you look at our defense, I think, again, this is cutting edge. There's not a lot of people that have played our defense in the past. I think people are moving towards it and doing some of the things that we've done, and we've had tremendous success, you know, with our defense in the last 4 years. So that trend needs to continue for us to be successful. It's my belief you win championships with great defenses. But this is a football game. It's not just against their offense, defense. It's against how our offense is going to play and how we're going to handle special teams. So it's all the components of a football game, and I think that's what makes it, such a great game.
Mark, the team that's had the most success against them in their own league, at least, is Stanford, and you're very familiar with, and there are some similarities in terms of style and philosophy. How much have you looked at those games, and how much is it true that if you can kind of hit them in the mouth, that's the way to beat them?
Well, we've looked at all their games. You know, we've obviously done a study, a spring study, summer study on them. So we've looked across the board all their games. You know, they lost last year to Stanford. So I think Stanford's offense is more a little bit more like us maybe than some of the other football teams. So you can certainly see some of the things that they did there. We'll look at all the different games and try and draw something from every single football team that had played them in hopes that we have the answers.
Mark, I was talking to a defensive coordinator who's coached against Oregon, and he said the secret with them is that it isn't necessarily they do 900 million different things, but they force you to make mistakes. Is this one of those weeks where people, the cliche, do your job, or it's maybe even more important than ever?
Yeah, I mean, football on the defensive side of the ball, offensively as well, and special teams, but I think it's specifically on the defensive side of the ball because the ramifications are so high if you don't do your job. It's such it's a technique game, but it's an accountability game. You have to do your job. You have to fit that puzzle. And the way I sort of explain it is every play is a puzzle, every defense is a puzzle. You better have your piece fitted right, or things don't work out. And usually that's what you see. You see a fit here or a fit there not happening, and next thing you know, they're in the end zone because they have great speed. So, big play ability is what you see with Oregon. They can be stop for 4 or 5 plays, and then all of a sudden you hit a 70-yarder. So you have to be able to take that away from them. We've been good at that, lately. We've not given up a lot of explosive plays, particularly last season. This year yet to be seen because we have so many games left, but that's something that we have to hang our hat on. When they don't have explosive plays, people don't lose too often.
Mark, obviously, it's a big game Saturday, but do you feel like your program is at the stage that no game is too big, that you don't worry about your team going into that environment?
Yeah, I don't really worry about that. We played big games. We've won away from home in every stadium in this conference. We've won our last 3 bowl games, played against good competition. We've been on a big stage at the Rose Bowl. We've been on a big stage the championship games or at Penn State or wherever. So I don't really worry about that. I'm more concerned about getting the job done. I don't think we're going to go in there and be intimidated, if that's the question. But I worry about the accountability, as we just talked about, and how we fit things defensively, and not making mistakes that are going to really unforced errors or turnovers that are going to affect you on the offensive side of the ball.
Mark, I wonder if you could address the challenges of preparing for a quarterback like Marcus Mariota, and does Damian Terry and his skill set help at all, having him available?
Yeah, he's very much like Damian in a lot of ways. I think he's a guy that's a dual type guy. You'll see him probably run the ball more in big games, which certainly is a big game. That's been the trend with most quarterbacks like this. You look at Braxton Miller as a guy that pulled the ball down and take off with it. Same type of situation. I think that he's built to throw the football. So he's got a great arm. He's got good receivers down the field. They've got good receivers coming out of the backfield as well. Good ball carriers. They hand the ball too. So they've got good tight ends, good offensive line. They've got things in order in that program. There's no question about that. You see that based on the success that they've had in the past. It's a good football team. It's a very well coached football team. They play hard. They play tough. So you have a lot of respect when you turn on the film and you watch how they play and how rapid they are in terms of their offensive production, in terms of how they're running their plays and everything. You have to respect their toughness, not just physically but mentally as well.
With the forecast in the 90s on Saturday, has that changed the way you're approaching this week or the game at all?
I think in any game like this, you got to play a lot of players. That's been our trend because it's a no-huddle type system. So you've got to be able to substitute, get your guys on and off, and you've got to play a lot of players. So we'll be ready to play. We'll be conditioned for it. There's certain things that obviously everybody has to do in terms of hydration and things of that nature. But we'll try and be cutting edge and see how it rolls.
Mark, in a game like this, how valuable are Rush and Calhoun just keeping contained and knowing that you can count on them the whole time?
Well, they're two of our best defensive players. Contain obviously is a big aspect of any football game when you're trying to pen in a quarterback. So they're big, but just as much, the guys who come in after them or play in place of them at times have to equally be impressive because they're going to be challenged. That's just the nature of it. There's a lot of things that they do schematically that puts pressure and puts people in conflict. And when you're a run-pass conflict or a gap conflict as to how to fit a particular gap or not, those things become issues that can create big plays.
And then also,
you got to play fast.
Yeah. And also, Jackson, Kings, and Langford all listed on the depth chart. Does that mean they're good to go?
Yeah. That's what it means. I'm going to list, you guys know how I am about injuries. We'll list them when we get to the game. If they're not going to play in Saturday's game, I'll let you know before we play. But right now, I anticipate them practicing and playing.
Mark, last week, Jacksonville State, a lot of 9 in the box, a lot of gearing to stop the run. Do you anticipate at some point if Connor Cook in the passing game look like that, defenses are finally going to change the way they approach your offense?
I think Connor Cook picked up where he left off last year. He's got great, and I've said it all through spring and all through fall camp. I think our wide receiver group is talented and deep. And, I think you saw that. I think we have an identity at tight end now. We've got guys out of the backfield as well. And I think Cook has got a great release, very strong arm. He's big, he's mobile. And there's a lot of things that he can do that are untapped yet. And I really feel like some of that involves his running ability. But I think he's an excellent quarterback, and he's resilient, and he's very confident.
You think you'll notice defenses change?
I'm sure I'll notice it when they do, yeah. That's the question.
Following up on Cal's question on Terry, would you use him some scout team this week then, or do you have someone else in mind?
Yeah, we'll use Damien a little bit on scout team, and probably Tyler as well when the other one's getting reps. So, but we're not going to have people standing around. So there's certain periods that we'll do certain things and add people to the mix to help and simulate. We've always done that, and we always will.
Mark, you know how these interconference games get built sometimes, Big Ten, Pac-12, the importance of being having a high conference rating and whatnot. Do you ever get sick of hearing about the Big Ten can't hold it, when Wisconsin lost to LSU and that narrative reemerges? Do you get sick of hearing that? Do you think that's fair? Do you think you can change it?
We just go out and try and play every game to the best of our ability. You know, I can't control everything that you guys write, obviously. There'll be something that's controversial brought up here. But I can't control everything that everybody writes, so, you know, why deal with it? You know, I just, you know, sort of shrug my shoulders and go. You know, last year, the perception was that we'd have a very good football team coming into the season. You know, we went through the season, we had a good football team coming out of it. That's the only thing that really matters at the end of everything. You know, we won against a very good football team in the Rose Bowl. I thought Georgia played for the championship in 2011. They were a very good football team. We managed to beat them as well. So, you know, I guess that's up to the fans in the SEC and all the other people that want to chant SEC or Big Ten, or whatever they want to chant in their stadiums. You know, so we just play the game. But we'll be ready to play.
Mark, I want to go back to that embracing the big game. You mentioned a few years ago, people, you know, yearn for these days. Hasn't your program also reached kind of the swagger stage where this isn't, I mean, you can win games like this. You can go in enemy stadiums, you kind of alluded to earlier, and win games like this. If nothing else, that's what last year gave you, didn't it?
Our program has taken steps since coming here in 2007. And I sort of feel like whatever year it was when we decided to play Oregon home and home, you know, when they asked me, do you want to play them, I felt like we needed to be at this point in 2014 to be able to play a game like that. We needed to be able to take the steps to be able to get there to play in a game like this and have a certain amount of respect that's attached to it to go and play. I think we've done that from a program perspective, and now this creates another opportunity. Every game we play, every game on a big stage we play creates another opportunity for Michigan State and our football program to make a statement, in one way or the other. And sometimes maybe we haven't gotten there and we've taken a step back. Remember when we played Ohio State on game day in 2008, and we weren't quite ready yet. We lost convincingly, but the next week we gathered things up and we went down and played very well in Ann Arbor. So it's not the end of the world type situation, but I think we've taken the right steps to try and get into a game like this so that people can say, hey, you know, if they win this football game, this sends you farther up the ladder. And that's what you're trying to do, I think, as a program. So when you look at what we've been able to accomplish long-term over the haul here, we put ourselves in a position to play this game and receive this type of notoriety to do it. And I want our players to have fun with this. I want them to be excited about this, and our coaches as well, and use this as a life experience, because that's what this is all about. It's really not about what you're going to write or what some guy's going to feel off the streets. It's about our players having a lifetime experience in this setting, at this time in their lives, that they'll remember for the rest of their life. And if we do that and get excited about it and play hard, you know, great things are possible. And that's how we've always approached it.
You've always talked about controlling emotion, but yet you want your guys emotional. In a week like this, you can't hide the hype. It is what it is. What are some things you do to either embrace it or to try at least to control it?
We ask we just ask our players to stay under control and make sure that on game day, at game time, that's when your energy comes out. And you've got to have energy. I think if we get all crazy today and running around all over the place, you're going to run out of it by game time. So you get old, you get tiring. The most important thing is what are you going to do at game time? So we'll try and build towards that from a physiological standpoint, from a mental standpoint, from an emotional standpoint, I guess, mental. So that's what we've always tried to do, and we have a system in place that we do that with, and it's what we do. But I don't think that we've come flat to many football games. So I think that's a tribute to our senior leadership, to our coaches as a group, but to our seniors and to the chemistry in our football team. And I expect that to be the case again. How we play throughout the game will depend on being able to handle adversity. You know that's going to come. You know that's going to happen. That's going to be a part of that football game, how we're able to handle adversity. And that always is a big aspect of it. You have to be able to play through it.
Nick Saban said the other day he thought at this point there are so many teams running spread offenses that maybe it's almost hard for teams to prepare to face a more traditional offense. Do you think there's anything to that? Do you think your offense at this point is almost becoming more unique and hard to play against?
I think there is something to that because they don't see some of the things throughout spring practice, throughout summer practice, that they see when they get ready to play a game. So there is something to that. But I think you see, I believe that everything goes in cycles in football. And, we lined up against the T formation a couple of years ago when Lou Holtz was running to South Carolina in 2001, which wasn't that long ago. But, so if there's something good, it'll always return. Even the single wing aspects of football have returned. And you see that in some of the spread offenses with the different type of handoffs and wide receiver things and different things of nature. And there's always cutting edge things, and I think Oregon does some amazing things cutting edge that we're going to have to deal with. But I'm sure it works the other way as well. They don't have quite the personnel to simulate maybe some of the different aspects. So it probably works in both ways, but at the end of the day, the game's played on the field, and you got to be prepared to do it.
Mark, wondering on the tape what you saw out of Byron Marshall, and do you think they used him differently in the opener than they might have last year?
What is the question here?
Running back Byron Marshall,
Yeah.
and what you saw to him in their opener, and did you think they kind of used him differently than they had in the past?
Yeah, I think they've had some different, they've got different players, they're asking people to do different things. Yeah, I think so, based on what you see, but they lost a lot of their wide receivers, so expanding different people's roles based on what they're able to do, and they're allowing their playmakers, they're creating plays for their players. And at the end of the day, players make plays, and it's a good football player.
Marcus, always a lot of talk about keeping the players' emotions in check before the game and all that, but is there a difference for you and your staff this week? Do you sense a difference in the preparation? I mean, is it not your everyday normal game for you guys?
It's a little bit of a fast week, I think, because we're traveling. But other than that, it's the same preparation in terms of what we do. We got a head start on them, like I said, because we've worked on them earlier. But now you go back and you look at different things, and they all look a little different. Things seem to always change. So get ourselves ready to go. I think it's important that we're fresh as well as coaches. That we're thinking clearly and have our emotions intact. Excuse me.
Obviously you'll be arriving Thursday. Will you be practicing out there on Thursday, Mark?
No, we'll practice here.
And then leaving?
We'll practice here early, though, and do all the things physiologically that maybe can prevent jet lag.
Sorry, Mark, I have to ask you a uniform question. Can you tell us anything about what you guys might be wearing Saturday?
White.
Nothing special? Nike, game?
It's white.
On a serious
As far as I
note,
know.
On a serious note on that, you guys have gotten into that rotation of, the pro combats and things like that as a Nike school. What has that meant in the past few years?
Well, Nike has a great product, and when they choose a particular institution to do something special with, such as they do with Oregon every week, I think that's a statement to young people, and I think people like to see that. They like to see change. They want to keep things fresh, and anything we can do to embrace that, we do. As we move through this cycle, there are different things that we'll be able to experience with Nike's help, and very appreciative of it. We have great relationships with them, and I've gotten to know the people there personally, and I think they're extremely innovative, outstanding people, first of all, but extremely innovative and cutting edge in all their thoughts and the processes that they do to keep their product fresh. Maybe I'll show up on a Nike commercial.